This is the fourth tutorial from Pacific Hills Christian School, just introducing students who are new to 3D modelling to the wonderful world of 3ds Max. And in this tutorial we will actually complete a railway track using quite an efficient workflow, just a child's toy track, and we'll be able to animate a little train or a block to move along it just like a toy train. And in 3ds Max the workflow is often a critical part of problem solving. There's lots of different ways to do things in 3ds Max, and sometimes you try one thing, it works okay, but then there are problems, and sometimes you hit on a really nice way to put things together. So here we go. We're going to come to Create, and rather than work in 3D initially, we're going to work in 2D, and we're going to use the rectangle. And we'll put together a rectangle which delineates the size of and general outline of the track that you want to use. Now you might say that can't be a railway track, and that's fair enough. Come back to Modify with the track selected and have a look down here. We've got corner radius. That's really neat. So we can bring corner radius up a little bit, and you can have rounded corners to 4 straight edges. Keep pushing it, and you'll get virtually that capsule shape. 2 straight sides and rounded ends, which is fairly typical of a model railway track. Don't push it too far, you'll get some weird things happening up the other end, which we don't want. So I'll leave it about there, and now we're going to do a fairly odd procedure. You may not have thought about this as being possible. We're aware that we can make a copy of that curve simply by holding down Shift and pulling Move. But what we're actually going to do is make a copy using Scale. So I'm going to pull in the vertical direction on this top view, the Y-axis, holding down Shift, and it's going to scale a copy. I'll then make it a copy, and there's a reason why I'm doing that. I'll explain that in due course. And now I'm going to take my finger off Shift because I don't want any more copies, and I'm going to pull the X-axis out until we have an outline around here representing the outer track. Before I do anything else, I'm going to have to make a third copy. There's a reason for this, and again I will explain in due course. And we'll do that with Scale again. So I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to select the inner original box and pull out to halfway between those two. I'm going to make a copy again, and then I'm going to scale out on the X-axis until just by eye it looks satisfactory. Because we're not doing an engineering model, we're just doing a kid's toy, I'm not terribly worried. Learn the techniques, do it quickly and roughly, have fun doing it, and you can get back to detail and measuring things later on for more complex projects. So how can we turn this into a track? Well, let's just get rid of Scale because it always makes me a bit worried. We can drop all of the tools by hitting Q, or alternatively we can just select Move, which is usually quite a useful one. And we'll select the inner track. We're going to apply the Sweep modifier. We have seen this already in tutorial 2, and here we come down here to Sweep, and it's going to apply, have a look here, an angle cross section. Actually, that's the one I want, but it's facing outwards and I want it to face inwards. So we come up here to mirror on the XZ plane, and that's actually the look that I want. We might just zoom in here a little bit and have a look to see just what it looks like. It's not quite a real railway track, but it's actually got some elements of a real railway track going on, and it certainly is the way I think some children's train tracks are built. You can, if you want to, under modify some details. For instance, we might want the height down to 3. Now let's come to the outer spline and let's add a sweep modifier to that. This one is going to pick up the mirror on XZ plane because it's what we did last time, and 3ds Max tends to hold settings at least until you restart the program. We'll turn that off, and so we have one facing outwards, one facing inwards. And remember, we brought length down to 3, so we can do that again here. Pretty good. So there's the track as I have conceived it. It's possible to use other sweeps, or even design your own exactly like a railway track, but children's toys don't usually really match that. And I'm now going to create the sleeper. So we will do that with an actual 3D shape. We'll use the box. I'm going to draw it initially in top view just to get the proportions right. And again, just guesstimating my way through this. And then we'll pull it up a little bit in the front view. Now, because of the way I'm going to do this, it really doesn't have to stay there. In fact, it's probably easier if we move it away now that I've drawn it to the right scale that I need. And I'll show you what we're going to use. We're going to use a really nice tool. It's available in Tools, under Align, and it's called the Spacing tool. Have a look at what this little fella can do. To start with, we're going to specify from end, specify space from end, specify number. As you can see, there's a lot of different ways that this spacing tool can work. Space from end, specify number will do the job that we want here. We're going to click on Pick Path, and we're going to point to that other curve that we made earlier on, and I didn't tell you what it was for. Well, this is what it's for. Click on it once. Now, my sleepers have all appeared. That's because I had a number in here already. But yours probably looks like that. Nothing's happening. If you just wind the number up for count until you have what you consider to be about the right number of sleepers, you can see that they're going to curve around the end, so you don't want them too close because they'll bump into each other there. And that looks pretty good to me. And you can see that the original copy sleeper is over here in the middle. We do want these as instances because if we modify the size of one, we want them all to change. Do it on centers and apply. We have just a couple of problems left. Currently, we have the sleepers have been built on the grid surface, 0Z surface, so they're too high. We can fix that up quite easily, and we want to select the sleepers only, make a group of them. How can we do that? Select everything. Hold down the Alt key, and the Alt key allows us to click things that we want to drop from our selection. So click on the center, click on each of the tracks, outside and inside, and click on the path that's still sitting there. By the way, we're going to want that path again in a moment, so don't lose it. Now, we could just move them now, but it's much more sensible to make a group. So we'll come up here to Group, click on Group, and give them a name, Sleepers. We can now simply move them down, and probably moving, right-click on Perspective, moving down in Perspective, but keep your eye on the front view up here. You can see we want the sleeper just inside the rail at the bottom, so it looks connected, but sitting below the rail. And there we have it. We've done quite a nice railing, and you could put material on if you wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that right now. We need a train to run along it, and so in a later lesson we'll actually bring in our model train that we made. For the purpose of this lesson, to just show you how we can animate a train to go around here without having to do fiddly work around the corners, I'm going to draw a train which is simply a box. And I'll make it what I think is roughly the right size. And you might say, well, it's not oriented the right way. We can fix all that up in just a moment. I'll show you what's going to happen. Right-click to drop the box drawing tool, make sure the box is selected, and come up here to Animation. Another great tool, Constraints, Path Constraint. You see we've got a rubber band line, and it's waiting for us to click a path that the box is going to go around. We click on the path, and the box is now relocated onto the path. Once you've pressed that, we do have to attend to this issue of following. Yours may look a bit like this or something like that. Here's what we're going to have to do. Follow is the instruction to guide around. If I don't do that, for instance, and we start zipping around, we'll see that the train goes sideways for most of the time. No good at all. So we have to say follow. Now, if yours doesn't orient correctly, simply come down here to where it says axis, and you may need to pick a different axis for it to be oriented along. That axis will then be oriented along the path, and as you can see, it's already put in some keyframes, and the animation that you had waiting down the bottom will now animate the train along the path that's there. Nice work, and as simple as that. Now you can get rid of this extra piece here. The path here looks a bit concerning. Honestly, a path like that doesn't render at all. So just leave it there, and we'll have a quick look at a render, and no path at all. So there's the very simple approach to a toy train track with a mock-up of the train.